Ah, there you are. Welcome back to Painting with Papa. Well, today is an awful day. I'm going to show you in a minute just what it's like outside. It's pouring with rain, it's going to be windy. Oh, it's just dreadful. So to cheer myself up and to cheer you up, what we're going to do today is to paint a nice bright flower picture. But before we do that, we're going to look at a couple of pictures that I've chosen for you, which will hopefully inspire us into painting our flower pictures nice and bright. Okay, let's get started. You can see I've got my colours set out. I've got that cerulean blue, that pale blue. I've got white. I've got the cadmium yellow, the cadmium red, and the phthalo blue. So, I'm going to mix, first of all, some white, with the cerulean blue, and I'm just going to quickly paint some sky. I'm going to try and get the colour as even as I can. Let's bring that sky down a little bit further. And just break it up a bit. Now I'm going to mix a pale green. So I'm going to mix that cadmium yellow, some of that cerulean blue, this is going to be for the trees and bushes that are in the background, so I'm painting them quite pale so they're not standing out too much. Just quickly put them in. Don't have to be too careful. Mixing a bit of the paint actually on the paper as well, rather than in the palette. Bring that forward a little bit more, and now just I'm going to add a little bit of that phthalo blue. Remember, we're not painting every leaf and every twig and every stick. We're just giving an impression. We're just trying to create the idea of a background rather than actually painting everything in great detail. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix a stronger green with the cadmium yellow and the phthalo blue, because that's going to be for the bushes that are in the foreground, closer to us. One of the beauties, of course, of acrylic paint is that it dries very quickly. And the other thing which is very good about it is that once it's dry, you can paint over it and you won't see the colour from underneath. With watercolour, if you make a mistake and you paint something too dark, for example, then it's almost impossible to make it lighter. But with acrylic paint, you can make those changes. Right, I'm just going to leave that now for a moment to dry. I will be back in a minute. Let's get started again. I'm going to mix an even stronger green. This time I want the paint to be a little bit thicker. And you can see I'm now using a round brush, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw in some leaves, because in the foreground we would want to see that the plants had actually got some leaves. In the background we can suggest that there are leaves, but in the foreground we actually want to paint them in. Keep changing the colour, make it a bit lighter, maybe. Or make it a bit darker. So the leaves are not all the same colour, because otherwise it's just going to look a bit flat. Now I want to just draw with my brush a few more well-defined plants. And I really need to make sure that I haven't got any white paper, because if I've got white paper showing through, then it's not going to look like a garden at all. It's going to look like a garden which has got snow on it. And although it's awful outside, we haven't got any snow, so I don't want to paint any snow, thank you. Maybe I'll go back to some of that Cerulean blue, because some plants have got leaves which are more blue than green. So I'll paint some of those in as well, I think, and see where we go. Right, we're almost there with this now. Just need to finish off this corner. Maybe put a few more brush strokes on there. And then I can leave that again to dry for a few minutes before I paint in some detail, and I paint in the flowers. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take that green that I made, and I'm going to add a little bit of red to it. Now, if you remember from our first lesson, if we add red, yellow and blue together, what we get is a brown. So I'm going to use that brown, and I'm going to use it to paint some like branches on the plants, stalks if you like. I'm just flicking the brush across the paper to make those shapes. Can you see now that those green shapes that I painted in the background are starting to look a little bit like trees? Well, I think they look like trees. I don't want to go too mad with this because I really want to concentrate on the flowers rather than having, trees. It's not about trees, this is about flowers. So I'm going to kind of stop there, I think. And I'm going to go back to a green. This time I want a very, very dark green because I want to paint in the shadows in the trees and the shadows in the plants. We need to remember that in order to create depth in a picture, we need to have parts which are light and parts which are dark. We need light and we need shade. Right. I'm reasonably happy with that. I'll just paint a little bit more there, just to make that stand out a bit more. I want this part here to look as though it's in kind of in sunlight, if you like. I'm going to leave that again. And now I'm going to paint some of those flowers. I'm going to paint flowers which are bright yellow, and I'm going to paint flowers that are bright red. You notice I'm not actually painting any petals or anything like that. I'm just putting daubs of paint on my paper. It's a bit like that picture which we looked at by Monet. Or was it Manet? No, it was Monet. Okay, let's put some red flowers in now. This is a really, really bright red. This is going to stand out. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll paint some white flowers. See if we can make them stand out. Clean brush. And just little spots of white. And maybe we could paint some pink flowers. Let's mix some of that white with that cadmium red. I think I've done enough now. I don't think I really want to do much more. I might just put a little bit more dark green in. Oh, guess who's just come in the room? Grandma. What do you want, Grandma?
Would you like some lunch?
Oh, lunch would be lovely. Do you want to speak to your grandchildren?
No, not at the moment. I'll speak to them later.
Okay, thank you, Grandma.
Soup and bread.
Oh, soup and bread, that sounds
Ready
wonderful.
when you are.
Right.
Right.
Right, I think I'm going to stop there because, you know, you can go too far with a picture. You can get to a point where you think to yourself, well, should I go on? Should I paint a bit more? Should I change this, change that, whatever? Sometimes it works, but more often than not, you end up spoiling what you've already got. So rather than go any further, I'm going to kind of draw a halt there and say to you, right, it's your turn. Let's see what you can do. Remember, don't try and paint every petal, every leaf, every flower. Just make it a suggestion. This is more of an abstract picture. It's not supposed to be a photograph. It's supposed to be your representation, your expression. That's what it's about. Expressing ourselves, making a painting which is about us. Right, that's me done. I'm going to go and have my soup. Before I have my soup though, what have I got to do? That's right, I've got to clean my palette and I've got to clean my brushes. See you again soon.